Hi guys, Rex here and welcome to my crossbow guide for Hunt Showdown. In this video, I'll walk you through everything you need to know to get started. In preparation of making this guide, I did a 500 crossbow kills challenge live on Twitch, where I killed 300 players with regular bolts, 100 with shot bolt loadouts, and 100 with explosive bolt loadouts. This challenge made it into a 3-part YouTube series called Crossbow Mastery, Shot Bolt Mastery, and Explosive Bolt Mastery for those interested. I'll leave the links in the description. After watching this video, you should have learned about the following basics: pros and cons of the crossbow, hipfire versus aim down sights, retrieving bolts, the bleeding effect, crossbow traits and other useful trait combinations, as well as ideal loadouts. You should also be aware of the more advanced techniques such as bolt pulling for PvP and PvE, jump shots, projectile drop, and leading shots. I will also be covering the pros and cons of the two special ammo types of the crossbow, shot bolts and explosive bolts. Finally, you should have general knowledge about positioning, movement, and using cover while you're playing the crossbow. This guide will be featuring the large crossbow variant only, as I've already got a guide for the hand crossbow for those interested. But without further ado, let's dive into it. The crossbow is a 3-slot weapon that can be unlocked from level 1. By default, you only have access to the hand crossbow, and you have to use this weapon to unlock the hand crossbow poison bolts before the large crossbow is next in line. This is a fairly quick process if you kill a few meatheads, bosses, or hunters. For reference, each crossbow unlock requires 600 weapon experience. Meatheads grant 300 XP, bosses grant 400, and every hunter kill grants 450 XP. Once unlocked, the crossbow can be purchased for $50 hunt, which is exceptionally cheap considering how powerful it is. The crossbow is a unique weapon that has a lot of upsides, but also a few downsides. However, if you play it correctly and make smart choices, you'll do really well in most scenarios. Number 1. Pros and cons of the crossbow. The main upsides of the crossbow is that it's very quiet whilst dealing a lot of damage. The high damage combined with applying intense bleeding on impact usually results in the target either immediately bleeding out or being forced to take cover to heal. In most cases, this gives you the opportunity to push in for the kill or rotate to a better position. The crossbow has no movement penalties while reloading, which makes it a perfect weapon for players who like to play aggressively and move a lot. The weapon has a decent ammo pool, and since you can recover your bolts, it's usually sustainable without the need for ammo boxes. Crossbow headshots will kill at any range, which means the more you practice, the higher the potential. The crossbow makes short work of most AI in the game and is very effective against most bosses. Most weapons have their weaknesses, however, and the crossbow is no different. The main downsides of the crossbow is that regular bolts have no penetration power and that you have to account for projectile drop and low velocity. The iron sights of the crossbow are, in my opinion, among the worst in the entire game and can take some time to get used to. The reload time of the crossbow is very long, and even when combined with bolt thrower, which significantly reduces reload time, the weapon is highly dependent on good positioning and movement. This means you're vulnerable whenever you're reloading. Since the crossbow is a 3-slot weapon, your secondary weapon options are limited unless you run the quartermaster perk. While the crossbow is effective on close to medium range, it is generally not that great for long range encounters due to the damage drop-off with distance and the fact that landing long range shots is very tricky. Number 2. Hipfire versus aim down sights. When I made my bow guide, I explained how its hipfire is extremely accurate and underrated. While I was doing my 500 crossbow kills challenge, I realized that the same is true for the crossbow. In fact, to a degree where most of my kills during the challenge were hipfire kills. As a rule of thumb, try to utilize hipfire shots whenever you have to move quickly or when you are close to your target. Aiming down sights simply isn't necessary for most close range encounters, and taking the extra time to aim will both slow you down and increase the likelihood of taking a hit or even dying. When the situation allows it, take your time to aim. This would typically be scenarios where your target is not aware of your presence, not moving, or is so far away that a hipfire shot is unlikely to land. Number 3. Retrieving bolts. The crossbow fires bolts that can be retrieved by interacting with them. Try to memorize where your shots landed so you can pick up your bolts later on if necessary. The Blade Seer trait can be acquired for 1 trait point after reaching Bloodline rank 54, and will highlight your bolts in dark sight. Personally, I never run this trait, but I can see how it may be useful, especially for beginners. Bolts can be retrieved from both AI and players by interacting with them, and retrieving bolts deal damage. I refer to this as bolt pulling and will be covering this a bit later in this guide. Number 4. The bleeding effect. Crossbow bolts apply intense bleeding on impact. This effect takes 6 seconds to stop, and during this time the target takes a lot of damage. Since the damage of the crossbow is so high, the target is usually low health when the bleeding starts. This often results in them bleeding out before they have a chance to react, or they will be left no choice but to stop the bleeding in order to survive. If you're good at reading the situation, you can make calculated pushes on bleeding players and kill them with a secondary shot or by pulling out the bolt. The bleeding effect can also be used as a defensive mechanism to prevent enemy hunters from pushing you. In a scenario where you have multiple players chasing you, landing shots and causing bleeding will prevent the affected hunter from any further pursuit, which may give you the time to kill their teammates or fall back to a better position. Number 5. Crossbow traits and trait combinations. At the current time, there are 2 traits directly affecting your crossbow gameplay. The main and by far most important one is called Bolt Thrower. As mentioned before, this trait reduces the reload time of the crossbow drastically, which makes a significant difference overall. I recommend picking this trait whenever possible. The other trait is called Blade Seer, and is also mentioned earlier in this guide. Outside of the crossbow traits, there are many traits that can be useful for crossbow players. I personally tend to pick traits that enhances stealth, such as Lightfoot, or traits that allow me to make interesting plays, for instance Kite Skin. Other generally solid traits are Doctor and Physician for quicker and more potent medkit healing, Quartermaster for more loadout options, as well as Serpent, which allows you to grab clues or bounties from a distance. Necromancer and Resilience is always recommended for both team players and solo players. In the team, Necromancer allows you to revive your teammates from a distance through Dark Sight. For solo players, it enables the self-revive mechanism. Resilience ensures full health whenever you're revived. Number 6. Ideal loadouts. When it comes to loadouts, this is once again highly based on preference. Without the Quartermaster perk, you are limited to 1-slot weapons for your secondary. I am a huge fan of the hand crossbow with poison and choke balls for its utility, and for that reason I often play the crossbow and hand crossbow together. The hand crossbow benefits from the bolt thrower trait as well, which means you get more value overall. If you want to learn how to use the hand crossbow, check out my hand crossbow guide. I'll leave a link in the description. If you want something for range, any pistol will do the trick, but an uppercut surely packs a punch and offers you the penetration power that the crossbow is lacking. Should you go with the Quartermaster trait, you can take a 2-slot weapon as a secondary. I would recommend something with a scope and or decent penetration power for long range, for instance the uppercut precision Deadeye or the Centennial Silencer with FMJ ammo. Cheaper options include a Winfield Vandal Deadeye or Springfield Compact Deadeye with high velocity ammo. Number 7. Bolt pulling for PvP and PvE. As previously mentioned, your bolts can be pulled from your targets by interacting with them. Pulling out bolts deals damage and will often be enough to finish off a wounded target. Bolts can be pulled as long as the projectile is stuck in the target. When the bleeding is stopped by any means, the bolt will fall to the ground. This is important to keep in mind as you may be pushing in to pull the bolt, only to find out that it is no longer possible. Bolt pulling can also be used to deal extra damage to bosses, which means you kill them faster whilst maintaining your ammo pool. Number 8. Jump shots. Hipfire and Hunt Showdown is very accurate even whilst jumping. This can be used to your advantage in some situations where you don't have a clear field of view. I've gotten countless kills this way with both the bow and the crossbow, and I highly suggest you try implementing this tactic when the opportunity is there. Number 9. Bolt drop and leading shots. Hunt Showdown has no projectile drop for guns, however the crossbow does not fall under this category. You have to take projectile drop into consideration when you play the crossbow, which can take some time to get used to. This can easily be practiced in the shooting range to speed up the learning process. The velocity of the crossbow is 150 meters per second, which is very low compared to most weapons in the game. For reference, the Winfield has a velocity of 400 meters per second, and the Mosin has a velocity of 615 meters per second. The main thing to keep in mind is that you have to aim higher the further away your target is, and you have to lead your shots relative to the movement speed, direction, and distance of your target. Mastering projectile drop and leading shots takes a lot of time, but practice makes perfect, so don't give up if you're struggling in the beginning. Now that we have covered all the basics, I'll cover the 2 special ammo types of the crossbow. Number 10. Shot bolts and explosive bolts. Shot bolt is an ammo type that combines the mechanics of a regular bolt and a shotgun shell. The ammo type has a higher projectile drop than regular bolts and triggers a shotgun blast on impact. This ammo type does not factor in distance when calculating damage, meaning full damage will be dealt on impact. On the death screen, this will be displayed as 0 meters if you were hit directly by the shot bolt, indicating that the distance is calculated from where the impact was, not where the shot bolt was fired from. Since the shot bolt is a combination of bolt and buckshot, it benefits from the penetration power of a shotgun. It is possible to penetrate surfaces such as walls, floors, and even small trees with shot bolts, which gives you a lot of kill potential in situations where normal bolts would not be able to reach the target. Similar to shot bolts, explosive bolts have a very high projectile drop. This is the heaviest ammo type for the crossbow, and hence the projectile drop is the highest. Explosive bolts are unique in that they explode on impact and deal damage in a small area. This can be very intimidating under certain circumstances, and creates a lot of pressure on your opponents. I found that the best way to play the explosive bolts is combined with a high damage secondary weapon. The uppercut is an excellent choice for this loadout, as a single shot from the uppercut followed by an explosive bolt typically gets the job done.
Nice.
Explosive bolts are generally easier to land if you have the high ground, but can be very effective in a lot of situations with practice. A final thing to note is that both ammo types come with greatly reduced ammo pools, and neither bolt type can be retrieved. It is generally advised to bring an ammo box if you're running special ammo on the crossbow. Number 11. Positioning, movement, and cover. The crossbow is highly dependent on good positioning and movement. I like to compare it to a single-shot rifle such as the Sparks or Martini Henry. Take your shot and move. The more you move, the more unpredictable you are. Make smart rotations and don't re-peek the same angle over and over. While you're reloading, you need to make sure you're not putting yourself out in the open. Try to move to cover when you can, and leave your cover when you're ready to take a shot. If the opportunity is there to follow up a hit and go for a kill, do it. It's a constant tug of war where you push and fall back. Learning when to push or when to fall back and reposition is crucial to succeeding with the crossbow. Number 12. Useful resources to learn more. If you enjoyed this video and you would like to learn more, I have linked a few guides and other relevant videos in the description to get you started. My 3-part crossbow series where I play regular bolts, shot bolts, and explosive bolts can be used as a reference to see how I implement various techniques and playstyles in my own gameplay. My hand crossbow guide offers an insight into the utility of the hand crossbow for those interested in running the double crossbow loadout with bolt thrower. I also have a solo guide and a couple of beginner guides that you can check out if you're interested in learning how to play solo or looking for tips and tricks to help you improve. Finally, my bow and crossbow comparison video as well as my bow guides may be of interest to all of my fellow bow enthusiasts out there. Thank you so much for watching.